The second time on the pod is VegasWatch. You can catch him on Twitter at VegasWatch. How you doing tonight?
Hi, Brain.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. Are you a little disappointed that I invited Anonymous Gambler back for a second time before you?
I was disappointed that you invited him back for a first time.
You're not holding back any punches. Kind of like the whole explanation of me being introduced to Seville by Kunk. So I'm glad we're off on a consistent start here.
That's right. Yeah. I was sober that time too.
Okay. Before the video, you turned off the video. I saw you drinking some wine. I believe.
Oh yeah, man.
Okay. So you're all peppered up for the podcast here. So all right, we'll start out with the NFL portion of the podcast. We're going to be discussing that, some DFS, the Degen Tweats of the year, and plenty of listener questions. We had to parse them down a little bit. So sorry, folks. So we'll get into the NFL because I believe when we first were doing the podcast back in April, I think we were right around the draft time, and we were going to throw in a draft topic, but you didn't really care to
I didn't have any opinions on the draft.
So now that there's actually some games being played and all that, we figured I'd throw this in to start the podcast because I really haven't talked much NFL despite the popularity of the sport. So I know that you run, or at least you talk about Survivor Pool on your blog. So are you doing well? Are you alive in any of those Survivor Pools?
I think I'm doing okay. I guess. I mean, if you're not knocked out at this point, I suppose you're doing well. But I started with 4 entries in one pool and 10 in another, and the 4 and the 1 all lost. But the other one is double elimination, so I still have 3 left. Which at this point, considering how the beginning of the season went for that stuff, I'm happy with. And considering I generally take terrible teams at the beginning of the season, is, just lucky to have anything left.
Yeah, isn't that a strategy that you and probably most people who want to win money at this recommend, especially in the larger pools?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Patriots this week are a good example of why. I wrote the post this morning, I think, but the Pats this week are a good example of why it's a stupid idea almost no matter what to take the Pats in the first half or quarter of the season, because this week they're favored by 14 against the Redskins and in New England, and like 10% of people or so are picking them, not because it's not a good pick, but because everybody's already taken them. So if you look at the options this week, I mean, it's just like when you factor in popularity, it's just a so much better pick than anything else. And like it's only week 9, like it gets even more ridiculous with some of the stuff when you have games like this and even fewer, like that Seahawks game or some of that Pats-Titans game later in the season when like nobody's going to have the Pats left. So it just becomes like the ideal opportunity.
Sure, and I'm assuming that would be maybe more of a strategy for larger pools. I mean, I don't know what is considered a larger pool. I haven't really participated in a true survival pool in a long time, so are we talking like maybe 1,000 people in these or more?
Yeah, the one I'm still in has something, I think right around 1,000. Okay. So, and especially 1,000 people with double elimination, like the pool ends up going, I think at least last year, I know it went it's only the regular season, but last year it went all 17 weeks. So you don't have to worry about like, is the pool going to be over by the week I'm saving this team for, because the pool never really ends.
Sure. And is it the same setup where you can only pick the same team once despite the double elimination factor?
Yeah, it's pretty much all normal except you can obviously you get 1 strike. And then in every 4th week, you have to make double picks. So in 4, 8, 12, and 16, you have to make 2 picks, which like, especially toward the end of the season, I actually took a bunch of like 3.5-point favorites last week, and they all won, which was obviously like very lucky. But it's tough, even if you're taking the 2 biggest favorites on the board, it's tough to survive double picks. So
Sure. And yeah, so I'm doing the quick hashtag math there, but I believe that's 21 teams out of the 32 that you're going to end up having to pick. So
Yes, I believe it is.
okay, I just wanted to make sure I was doing the math right.
Oh no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just reading the Seville feed, and Norm wants me to turn the camera on, which, considering my Google photo, I might actually do in a minute here. But
yeah, I know people were commenting on the Kunk one. I believe his theme for his Google Hangouts is maroon based, because he had Maroon 5, he had the Minnesota Golden Gophers, he had some other, and it said maroon sucks on it. I don't know. It would have been much better to see his face, I guess. I'm not sure, than Maroon 5. But anyways, I digress as I normally do. So I know that on your blog you offer some advice on when you're doing these survivor picks. Is there a rhyme and reason that
survivor tout?
Is there a reason that you offer the advice that you do? Like, because I know that some people might consider that, you know, why would you do that, especially if people are competing against you?
I only do that because I started doing it in like 2008 probably, and just kind of kept doing it all the way through as I learned other things about how to actually make money gambling. And just like, you know, I have a bunch of $50 and $100 survivor entries. It's not that serious. And I mean, I think I've spelled out exactly how I approach it so many times. It's not like I think the Pats are a good pick this week. Well, no shit, they're favored by 14 and nobody else can take them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, let's go on. I know the next NFL topic we have here might be a little bit of a sore subject for you, at least at this point. You haven't done so hot with your super contest picks. I believe.
No.
Are you at 40% roughly?
A little over that, I think.
Okay.
It's like 41 or something, so it's close. Yeah, it hasn't. I think I have like an 0-5 week, a 1-4 week, and maybe another 0-5 week, something like that.
Okay.
So that hasn't been the best.
So no CH ballers run for you?
No, I mean with that contest, it's like, I mean I didn't do great in the first 5 or 6 weeks or whatever, and I mean last week I took Raiders +2.5 and Browns +5, when like those were the grossest things. Like I think even when I took it, the Raiders line was at least 3 and the Browns line was at least 6. So I just figured that everybody would be. I'd never even checked it, and I only went 2 and 3 last week, I think. But I figured everybody would be taking the Jets and the Cardinals. So just like going with the contrarian strategy of going back in a contest that's that big.
Sure, and I assume that where you're at in the standings probably influences your picks a little more than if you were at the top, or maybe it's really too early to be looking at that if you're at the top. But if you're at the bottom, I imagine you're especially looking for contrarian picks.
If you're in the middle, I mean, I don't even know how many like points ahead of me the guys in the like top 10 are, but it's got. I mean, you know, when you have 1,500 people or whatever, some people are going to run insanely good, like CH Ballers did last year. So if you get off to even like a 500 start, you're not like, you get off to a 500 start in a contest like that, you're not like doing all right. You're like actually fucked, because you have like, if you get off to like a 60% start, you're doing all right. If you get off to like a 70%, 75% start, then obviously you're in good shape. It's only really those people that are in especially good shape.
Sure, and I'm trying to remember I think you posted the recent standings either today or yesterday. What of like Seville and friends? Who's leading amongst you guys?
Yeah, I was gonna pull that up before I came on the podcast, and then I didn't do that. So let me get it up real quick.
That's okay. Let me see if there's let's see, what do we got here. So with the contest, is there any like particular bad beats, or I mean, I guess when you're so far back, you're probably not looking at like a particular bad beat or beats that have like ruined your contest to this point.
Well, it was definitely unfortunate to have Ravens +7.5 on Monday night. I guess just over a week ago, when that line closed at 10 and they lost by 8. So Fortunately, the actual bets I had on that game were not at 7.5. But I mean, that's another one that, like, if I wasn't so far back, I might have taken that one anyway. But that's another one where if I wasn't so far back, you wouldn't take such a bet. I mean, again, Arizona, when that line was at 8.5 or 9 or whatever, when everyone was submitting their picks, I can't imagine the Ravens were a very popular pick with a shitty team versus a good team at a bad number.
No, and I when I ran my little, I had a knockoff version of the contest last year, and I know based on the looking at everybody's picks on a weekly basis that it seemed like a common strategy to pick a line that had moved a couple points, like it meant something, and I figured out that it didn't matter as much as I thought it did. But I mean, obviously, when you're betting, you obviously want to get the best of the number all the time. But in a contest like that, I don't know if it's always the best strategy just to pick the line that's moved the most.
I mean, it's a good strategy if, like, you're the only one who's figured out that it's a good strategy. Like, you can take that stuff and hit 55% without knowing anything else, just because you're getting 4 instead of 3 or 7.5 instead of 6.5 or whatever. But if everybody, the thing about those contests is it's not just about making, like, hitting 50. Obviously, it's not about hitting 55%, but it's not just about making the best picks. You have to, like, make the best picks in some kind of not super obvious way, because you don't. It's like Survivor. You don't just have to win. You have to. The point is to beat other people, not just to, like, do the best yourself. So, like in Survivor, you can't just take the Bengals this week because everybody's doing that. In the contest, you can't just take the Jets -2.5 when the line's 3.5, and they're, short road favorite, which are always popular anyway.
No, that makes sense.
I think you're exactly right.
So did you pull that standings up yet?
I did it. So 3 people are at 24.5, which are Mr. Anthrope, which is Rolub in our little key here, is at 24 and 15-1. It's pretty good, 24.5 points. Okay. And then the B Shraps, who are, I know, Middy's World and a couple others, are tied with him. And then Clear Capital, who's not that tricky, and I know they actually did. I think there's that entry and there's another entry that both did very well last year as well. Okay. Are at 24.
Okay.
So those guys, I mean, that's another thing where they're positioned well, but they need to, like, you do that, you do the exact same thing again, like you run that good for another half of the season, and you'll cash. But in this, there's just so many. I guess I think 50 people cashed this year rather than 30 last year, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah. So out of all the guys we have, and then Chew and Mucknuts are at 23, and then the Tuesday group, which is JBX, is at 21.5. Everybody else is kind of, including my term puncher, obviously, or everybody else is not doing great.
Sure. So yeah, I know
those guys are at least still in it. No, that's all.
Okay. All right. So let's see. What else what's anything else related to Super Contest here? I think you covered that. One of the things I wanted to cover with NFL about, and this is kind of a small thing I ask guests occasionally, is if you watch much of your action, because I know that some people put value in watching their action, some people don't. So what's your stance on that? Because I'm not sure. Maybe you get down live on games. I'm not really sure. What's your approach?
I don't really bet much live these days. I watch. Okay. It depends on the sport. For NFL, I watch. For WNBA, I made it through the whole WNBA season without watching a minute of that. So I thought that was a good use of my time. But for NFL, I'll pretty much, if there's a game on and I have if I have enough money to care, I'll watch it. Like, I actually didn't watch the Colts game on Monday night, just because, the Panthers are good, but that was kind of a shitty game and I didn't have anything on it. So I was like, I'll pass. And there's other stuff to do.
Hard pass? You took a hard pass on that?
And then once I see what, I guess it was raining too, and it was just kind of, I mean, it ended up being an exciting game at the end, but I don't think the first 3 quarters were much to write home about. But
Yeah.
I mean, I spend, I pretty much watch Red Zone religiously for the 1 o'clock games every week, because that's like the only way you can really keep up with everything that's going on. I can't get DirecTV in my apartment, unfortunately, so I can just get the like shitty Sunday Ticket knockoff that you can like stream, but is like a minute or a minute and a half behind, which is kind of like, if I've already seen the play on Red Zone, the stream isn't really doing me much good.
Sure.
And then there's so few 4 o'clock games that you can basically just watch every 4 o'clock game on a different screen if you want. And
Sure.
then the rest of the games are just standalone. But I mean, I do watch more NFL than is probably reasonable.
Okay, so you actually get something out of it. Like, do you get something out of it betting wise by watching it? Because I know some people just will look at a box score and rely on that.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters to me whether I actually, for that sort of thing, whether if I felt like I needed to study every second of every game, like I would have watched the game last night, but I just it's not worth 4 hours to me or whatever to watch one game and get whatever. It would probably be more useful to me to watch a game that, like, I would have a better opinion of a game if I watched a game that I didn't have money on, just because I would be so much less biased.
Sure.
And it's just a big time investment, honestly.
Sure. No, yeah, no. I found myself throughout the days watching less.
And honestly, especially for the NFL, it is fucking hard to sit through a game if you don't care. Like, if you're not doing something else or like somehow distracted during commercials, like I don't know, on Sunday during 1 o'clock Red Zone, it doesn't matter. But during those standalone games, when they have touchdown commercial, kickoff commercial, it's like 15 minutes of your life that you're just not getting back.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Okay, so I think, is there anything else NFL related before we go on to DFS that we wanted to discuss?
I think that was sufficient. Nothing in particular.
Okay. All right. So the topic that I had brought up to you when I originally approached you to join the second podcast here was DFS, and at that time, I'm trying to remember exactly where that story was because it's evolved so much in the past 2 or 3 months. I haven't really heard too much new news relating to the DFS industry, but if you want to maybe give a little synopsis about, or at least how you've seen it, the evolution of the industry in the past few months, like the news stories. I don't know if anything's caught you off guard or anything that people might not, be as knowledgeable about or need to know about the industry that's come out in the past couple months.
I mean, it's actually, looking at it, I know that all the first report or whatever of this all started on October 3rd is what I was trying to say. So that was like exactly a month ago. So all this stuff has happened like in a very condensed period of time, which is kind of amazing. Like, I don't know, it seems like a long time ago that DFS was still just a thing that had a lot of commercials and was kind of annoying, and the people were unreasonably talking about how it's not gambling. I guess those things are still happening, but they've kind of added a lot to their plate in the last month. I think that, I mean, I'm not gonna. I feel like if people give a shit, they know the gist of what's happened. I think what's been really interesting, and I think what some people have talked about, is how the two different big companies have kind of handled things in different ways. I mean, I think that, and it all made a lot more sense to me once I realized that FanDuel was started in 2009 and DraftKings was started in 2012. So, and I knew FanDuel was first, which makes it funny when the DraftKings CEO talks about how people are jealous that they didn't have the idea, and that's why people are mad at him. We're like, well, sorry, Jason, but you didn't have the idea either. But I think that DraftKings acts like not that I'm expert on corporations, but I think DraftKings acts like a much younger company, and not that FanDuel has had some, really fucked up in some aspects, but DraftKings, it just seems like even when Robbins keeps getting interviewed, it just seems like still he gets asked about, like, do you regret all the commercials? And do you wish you had handled it differently? And all he says is that, no, we had to because we have to grow. And it's so clear. And obviously when you're getting all this VC funding, that's what those guys care about. And that, like, they were so tunnel vision on, we have to grow, we have to acquire more users, we just have to go, that there was no time for anything else. And even when this stuff was brought up, and it unquestionably was brought up about how, no, it's not really fair that, like, the guys are playing at the other sites and people have access between the guys working at the sites and the guys at Roto Grinders and everybody being able to tell their friends. Like, lots of people have access to whatever they have access to, and it was just the Wild West. And when, there are a lot of people, I think, in DFS who are unreasonable, but there are a lot of people who very reasonably, like, voice their concerns. And, like, in that one old Roto Grinders post I tweeted a couple weeks ago, it was like they're basically told that they were wrong. And, like, it's not a big deal that people have access to Max Stollery and Brett Favre's lineups. And once you have access to a lineup, you can do whatever you want with it. Like, even if you can't play yourself, which you could sell it to somebody else who can play. Or if you have access to it was funny that it all started with the guy having access to the football consensus numbers or ownership percentages.
Yeah.
Because, like, but that literally seemed like everybody kept making the point of how that's not that big of a deal because, like, you can already see that you can see the FanDuel stuff from Thursday, and then, it's like that's highly correlated as well. But, like, the guy also, in baseball, it seems very clear that if you knew all the pitcher ownership percentages, like, that would be a huge deal. Because JBXX is mad that I'm not wearing my Focus shirt, but I'm wearing I switched sweatshirts in the middle of the podcast just for you guys. But whatever. Now I'm warm, so maybe we'll have to pause so I can change. Although I guess the Focus shirt is dirty. But anyway.
Shouldn't you have like 3 or 4 of those shirts? I thought you bought those in a bulk.
I believe this is a question for later in the podcast, Brandon.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really excited. I have to focus.
It's a very exciting answer. It was really a very exciting time with the whole Focus shirt situation, honestly. But people, I think they were just running so fast. It was partially they were just running so fast. And this, this isn't the first company who's been growing so fast and been so focused on that they kind of forgot the details in the middle of it. But they were doing that. And then, there's a certain aspect of delusion with all this. And now Walker's scratching at the door. There's a certain aspect of, you have to, like, if you're going to convince yourself that this stuff isn't gambling, which these guys decided they had to, that's so far off the rails that there's no, like, logic to be applied. And I think that, people, call Seville a circle jerk or whatever that Football Outsiders tweet is, but DFS really was / is just like an unbelievable circle jerk. And that's, like, it's not good once, like, you have to kind of extend beyond that group and, like, explain things, or, like, once you have to explain that, oh no, it's, we actually have these controls in place, like, it's not just rampant cheating. Well, like, you don't even, like, you couldn't even, like, you're still saying it's not gambling. Like, why would anyone believe that you're, like, making logical statements about this? I think that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, no, and I don't know, like, the people that are just caping for it seem like, you're doing your hobby a disservice, I feel like, for if you just, like, close your eyes and pretend nothing's happening. I feel like you should be critical of things and want things to get better. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think that's absolutely true. And I don't know if it would have just been a different way to get this to the same result with all the, all the legislation and, like, every different state looking at it. And sorry, I just need to stop reading the tweets. And, like, they weren't just going to, I mean, part of it was just the advertising. I mean, they weren't going to fly under the radar for very long when there was, during every football commercial, one of these two companies was advertising. But, I mean, they really just sped it up with they just handled the situation poorly with the data getting leaked. I mean, the guy posting it was handling it poorly, which is what started it all. And then it just they just handled it poorly all the way through, yeah. But, I mean, something was going to happen. Like, you can't just say, oh, no, it's not gambling. It's fine. Look the other way. Let us spend hundreds of $millions in advertising and, like, don't worry about it. It's fine. That was only going to, I mean, it worked for, they got away with it for a month, which is not a very long time.
So do you think the circle jerk with sports betting or Twitter gambling or whatever you want to call it is any worse than DFS or comparable to DFS?
I'm not saying there's not a circle jerk, but we're not over here running billion-dollar companies. So, like, it's okay if we're, like, joking around and have inside jokes with each other because, like, it doesn't matter. That's kind of the whole point. Like, we're not running anything. There's no, like, the guy's tweet is that everybody's shilling. But the whole point of, like, Seville and a lot of gambling Twitter or whatever is that if you're just betting, you're not shilling and you don't care. And, like, you don't have anything to sell. So you don't, like, the problem with it is that they had this whole community, but they were still trying to, like, do all this advertising and, like, put their faces on everything. So I think it was that combination that was, like, just didn't work.
Well, I was just told that by Thick Slicing that we have to interview the dog, but I don't know if the dog's going to be cooperative with our endeavors here. I believe the thing that you were laughing at came up on my feed here when he was saying that he was heavier than the both of us, something like that. I think that's what you're laughing at.
Yeah, well, I think Thick Slicing is about my height, but he's got a few pounds on me at least. So, and I'm not in very good shape. So, have you met Thick in person? I have not actually. We've had a couple of things that never ended up working out. He doesn't. I don't know. He's probably 3 or 4 hours from me, so that's it's a long drive for lunch. But yeah, I've met quite a few people from Seville, but I have not had the pleasure of meeting him.
I know you did the run with Kunk's kid year. Are you doing that again this year?
I'm not. I actually can't. He's doing it again. I actually can't make it that weekend. Okay. So that's why I'm so fat that I haven't been running as much.
Yeah, I saw some comments about the fat face. That's why
people are surprised. I'm really sorry.
All right. So with the current state of DFS and maybe the future of DFS, do you see the current wave of legislation continuing at its current pace? Do you see it? Do you see these companies smartening up and maybe creating some regulations that will appease the government, or what your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what's going to happen because I don't think anybody does. It does seem like even with the FanDuel founder did an interview today, which I've just seen clips of. I haven't read the whole thing, but it seems like FanDuel is going to come out of this better than DraftKings is, basically, just because and who knows, but I just think they're as much as neither of these companies were super well run as of a month ago. I think it seems like overall that FanDuel is just better run and has more of a long-term plan, whereas DraftKings is just this, very immature company that is at times, they just kind of seem like a chicken running with their head cut off. And they have a ton of users. There's a lot to fuck up if they do fuck up, and maybe they'll make it through fine. But it seems like they're just not run as well. So we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
We're getting asked about where the train's at.
I don't know. There hasn't been as many trains. Actually, I was waiting to mention this on the podcast, but yesterday my commute got delayed to work because somebody decided to jump in front of the train. And I can only assume he was listening to my podcast when he was doing as such, but it was bad enough where he failed at suicide and actually survived.
Really?
So I got inconvenienced yesterday morning because of that, but I can only assume he was listening to the podcast. But there is not as many trains. I really hadn't noticed that, but whoever mentioned that, I'm kind of surprised. There hasn't been as many, but
it's killing your brand.
I know, and I don't know. Once I move to the suburbs, eventually at some point, I don't know. I don't know. With all my tens of listeners, I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with non-trains. I feel like I'm going to have to move next to like a metro line or something. I'm not sure, but all right. So I think the other DFS question I think I had, if there was any other sites besides FanDuel and DraftKings that were positioning themselves well, because I know those are the two big players, but are there any? I don't know if you're familiar with maybe the niche vendors in this that might be creeping up, that might be able to take some of the business away from them, that might be preparing for all of the legislation that's going to come.
Yeah, there are a couple. I meant to look at this beforehand, but there are a couple of this. There are quite a few of the smaller sites. And a couple of them I know have been more aggressive in like pulling out of these states sooner than others when it's, when in Florida or whatever, the legality is looking iffy for whatever reason. And I think and then I guess the one site that's part of the larger poker corporation pulled out of all but 4, which I don't know if that's them. That's being conservative, but I don't know if it's being conservative because of long-term growth or just because they're a big company. But I do think that, it all depends what happens with the legislation and everything, and if these states are going to charge them an arm and a leg to be registered in their states, then that's going to kind of fuck the smaller companies. But there are some. I think some of the smaller ones are at least like doing their best. Yeah.
Okay. And the last, it ties into the sports betting aspect of things, but do you think the way this is played out in the public eye that this will hurt the chances of the sports betting getting legalized anytime soon? Or do you think it doesn't really have any effect?
I almost think that it's going to have less of an effect on sports betting or anything like that because of how all this happened. And because all the focus has been on, the focus ended up more being on are people cheating and all that, rather than is it gambling and doesn't make sense how we define gambling. So maybe, which until a month ago, that was the question. And that's, that was the issue that made DFS controversial. It wasn't are people using insider information? Nobody gave a shit about that until all this stuff happened very recently. So for now, I feel like it's brought sports betting and I don't know if sports betting really wants to be in the picture one way or another, but it's kind of pushed that aspect of it to the side because people are so worried about the inside info rather than just actually defining what we're going to consider to be illegal gambling. So, but eventually I'm sure it'll come back around to that question. So,
Okay.
But I don't know that it really has much of an effect.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think it's more of that everybody being more. For the most part, when you talk to people about DFS, they're not oh, this is so horrible. All gambling should be illegal. They're I guess this is biased from the people I talk to, but people aren't oh, this is so awful. It should be illegal. They're no, I think it all should be legal, but it's very silly that we're calling this not gambling. So and this will get, if we talk about that Times article, I think it all kind of is similar, but people just I don't know. I just think people don't care unless they have a political agenda. People just aren't oh God, scary gambling. And that's, that's a lot of the reason that DFS has gotten so popular. It's this is what people do. People play fantasy football. People bet offshore. People bet on, DFS. It's just like such a daily thing for so many people.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's getting more accepted. Both aspects. I'm sure DFS is helping that stigma, lessen that stigma a little bit, but I'm not really sure. All right, so we want to get into the last topic here before all the listener questions. The one that I was really looking forward to the most here, I believe, with all the great tweets that we've had this year, and it would be the Degen Tweats of the Year for 2015. And you have about 10 months worth of the material, and
we have a lot of material.
I think you have an active spreadsheet of about like around 300 tweets.
Yeah, I think yesterday it was at 256 because it like perfectly fit into a really big bracket. Not that I did that, but like it would have.
So there might be some play-in tweets.
That would be a lot of polls to make, but I guess with the Twitter polls, maybe we could just do it that way. That might go a lot faster.
Oh yeah. Well, assuming they last that long, I don't know. The way that people make these fucking polls, kind of defeats the purpose of polls. But I guess that people are trying to be ironic about things. So anyway,
they don't care if you use the polls in an intelligent way. They just use polls.
So we have. I have a lot of questions here. So with how many great tweets there've been this year with when it comes to gambling and DFS and all that, how the hell do you weed all of this down? Would you say this is probably one of the best years of doing this? Because I didn't follow you this time last year, so I don't know if it was like this, entertaining last year. I wasn't really focusing on how bad some tweets were, but is this better than? Is this the best year to be alive for this?
I don't know about all that. I do think that before this year, I didn't actively keep track of it throughout the year. So there's definitely going to be less that just falls through the cracks and gets forgotten about this year, which, I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, but I do have 256 tweets in a spreadsheet. So there is that. So we're being the most thorough this year for sure. Okay. I don't know. There was some, definitely in 2013 and 2014, I think there was plenty of content if somebody had been logging all of it. So, but we're prepared this time.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of soldiers on the front line helping you out with hashtagging DTOTY15, I believe. So
yeah, it's quite hashtags taken off.
So with I know this has to be a particularly good year, breakout year for DFS. I don't imagine that made any previous Degen Tweet of the Year conversation in previous year.
I wonder if there were any jokes about the ads, or I guess there weren't even as many ads before the last 10 months. So I don't think there was anything at all. But I think, so I do have some categories. I have some categories in the spreadsheet, but I think two definitely has to be a category. I think even more so than anyone else, he just has the worst, most ridiculous, most yearning, nonsensical tweets of anybody related to gambling who's as prominent as he is. I just think his Twitter feed is incredibly bad. It's amazing. So he definitely gets his own category.
I think your feed broke up a little bit. Who were you talking about there?
Toot is bad.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I think we had a little, not surprising with the Bebo Knows podcast, but there was a little technical difficulty. I think I just wanted to make sure that that was articulated. So, all right. So let's see. Has this DFS Twitter, do you think it's exceeded the annoyance of gambling Twitter as far as if you had to guess that is there more DFS tweets in here than regular gambling tweets? I don't know if you have it. I think you have it organized by category, but
I have it organized that way. But there's no way that DFS has overtaken everything else. I don't think, just because especially in the first half of the year, there's just so much different gambling nonsense versus just DFS. So I was starting to talk about the categories before we broke up.
Okay, go for it.
We have the two category, which I think will be an extremely strong category, even though it's just one person. We have the pregame category, which will have, if anything, that could be broken up into multiple categories.
Will that be the Bovada and Vegas bracket, the regional?
Yeah, that would work. So we have, the pregame. Those will both be incredible categories, I think. And then we have the meta category, which is just, I have a tag for that in the spreadsheet. It's just like, that's the highest level of nonsense. Just stuff that doesn't even make sense unless like you've read thousands of tweets about gambling this year and like you get the 3 stupid references within it. We obviously have DFS. We have BS, which is just kind of a catch-all. We can probably separate that into some separate categories. And then I think we need to have like a non-gambling category, which like everything should be somewhat related, I guess. But like stuff like that one tweet that I refound last night about how I only stay alive so I can see Darren Ravel die, which is like a great tweet, and like that's kind of gambling related, but like not actually. So I think we need a category for stuff like that. But definitely open to other ideas with the categories because there is like an incredible. We need to sift through them all somehow.
Is there going to be a selection committee this year for this?
We might need something like that, or we might just need to have like 300 Twitter polls. I don't know.
Okay.
But maybe I'll enlist some help.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you could enlist some people to help you out with that. By the way, I'm reading my tweet deck here and seeing that Norm is wishing that he was dead right now. So that's always a good sign.
Not one, not a compliment.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think the next time I hear a compliment about my podcast from him would be the first. So,
he doesn't show himself.
No, but that's that's what he believes. I can't blame him. So anyways, so I wanted to get a sense of your top 5 or top 10 Degen tweets, and I know that some people were tossing some suggestions at you. I know that one of them was, I think you retweeted from yesterday, was when the doctor revolution started, when Ms. Miller, or Dr. Miller, I should say, yeah,
I guess that's technically DFS, but that is, I mean, that tweet I think is beyond any particular. It's not that, it's not just a DFS tweet. She was like literally offended she wasn't addressed as doctor in like a gambling discussion. It was really like next level.
Yeah,
sure.
And I don't know if you actually saw this, but she replied to my quote tweet, and she said, "What do you mean by this, Mrs. Bullock?" I didn't respond to that because I didn't really know what to say. I was just kind of like, I was just dumbfounded, and I still haven't replied to it. But
did you add commentary on the quote?
No, I just said I basically just said that. This is when the doctor revolution started on Twitter.
Oh, right. I see.
What a great time to be alive, or something like that. Something along those lines. And she said, "What do you mean by this, Mrs. Bullock?" Like, I don't know if Mrs. is supposed to insult me, but
it's
anyway,
a joke, honestly.
I don't know. I just kind of ignored it, but I figured it'd be good to just bring up as material here. But that was one of the tweets that stood out. I know that based on what you've retweeted. What do you consider your top 5 or 10, or maybe in no particular order, some that have stood out to you this year that might get 1 or 2 seats?
I think somebody said that they would be mad if we didn't mention the Kelly in Vegas tweet about how the Bovada strikeout prop that was like 3.5 when it should have been 7.5, that she said it was a nice middle opportunity on the one that was like very obviously just a bad line that Johnny Detroit decided he needed to tell the world about. That I mean, there's a lot you can infer from that tweet about how much she actually understands about sports betting. So that's definitely a good one, as she's, full-time professional sports bettor.
I thought that was a reference at first to her the top tennis capper guy who was talking about middling the Clippers parlay that he just had with Clippers minus 11.5. I thought that was what the nice middle there was about, but
that wasn't actually. No, that was the dream guy, right? The How to Get Middled one.
No, it was the top tennis capper that had like that parlay that he was trying to figure out how to middle it, and he ended up deciding to bet the Clippers minus 11.5, even though he had the Clippers money line. But anyways,
we're talking about very similar things, but different things. I just retweeted the other one, which is the guy asking how he's going to get middled. It's the same situation. He has the money line on one side and minus 2.5 on the other side. So it's fairly clear how he would get middled.
Okay,
that's a really good one. I think that would be an even better one if it was like from someone more prominent. And then I have 6 more pulled up. So, and I think I tweeted the Kevin Durant tweet last night, which assuming it's real, which I think it is I don't know, that one might win. Yeah. Calling Todd Furman dumbass.
I think I did see that when it came out. I believe that one of our fellow brethren actually had posted that or found it and retweeted it. So I do remember seeing that.
It was I don't know. It was, the timestamp on the tweet is at 3:39 a.m. and I think it might have been like over the weekend or something. Like I remember seeing it, I want to say on like a Saturday morning, like at a really random time, and just like being hungover and having a hard time believing it actually happened. But I mean, the two tweet that he's replying to about how Kevin Durant looks like he'd rather the team lose while he's hurt than Russ become the hero. It's like in all of sports, is there someone you could say that about where it would make less sense than Kevin Durant? Like he's at least he comes across as like the ultimate like team guy, doesn't care about stats or anything and just wants to win. Like that's like his whole persona. So to say that, I mean, all the replies to the tweet were like, do you even follow sports? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense, man. Like, it's just when you're trying to, when you're reaching for that hot take and it doesn't actually come together, you end up with something like that.
You end up getting burned and on the wrong side of a DTOTY.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that Kevin Durant calling Todd Furman a dumbass for any reason, like even if Todd was right, Tude was right, it would be funny, but I think that makes it that much funnier. The other one is the Scoot, the Greek one about I love animals more than you do, which I think is fairly self-explanatory. He felt like he had to claim that he loved animals more than another person in the middle of a sports betting discussion. So that was kind of a weird thing to say. And I think that's probably also one of those that, like, he's wrong. Like, the guy he's tweeting at, like, does all this charity stuff for animals, as far as I can tell. Like, I think the guy loves animals a lot. So I don't think Scoot loves animals more than him at all. So it's, with these tweets, there's a lot of things that have to come together. I think for, that's a great, and there's like minimal punctuation in the whole thing. So.
Yeah, you have to love that. And I'm proud. It's probably a good thing that I haven't been on. I know it's a good thing that I haven't been on the wrong end of any of these. I didn't see my name when I did the Control F on the spreadsheet. So
you didn't make it either way.
I'd rather not be on it. I think. I don't know. I guess I'm not edgy enough. I probably don't have hot enough takes to get on there one way or the other. So.
Not hot enough or stupid enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you wanted to post any of the 71 links of this podcast, I would probably get on there. Just based on that. But yeah, it's probably better off not being on this list from what I've read of the tweets. So
I think you're probably right, especially with these 6. So the next one, and I just tweeted this link from last night, but the next one, and this one definitely has a chance of winning, I think, is the Oskheim, I don't know how you pronounce his name, the one about his child submitting his plays while he was at dinner, which, I mean, it reads much more like a parody than about anything that actually happened, but I'm pretty sure he was being serious, which is just mind-numbing. So, I mean, I don't really know what else to say about that tweet. It's just
self-explanatory. No, and as I've gone along this year, following some of these accounts, seeing the retweets of people tweeting these people, retweeting these people. A lot of these people I don't follow for a reason, but I have no idea. Like I'm starting to not be able to figure out who's a parody and who's not. It's really difficult.
It's really hard. It's hard to keep track and which parody is which and what they're, who's which parody this week. It's very challenging. So, I mean, but, that guy, he's part of Wager Talk. Like, he's got a very serious, like, hitting 65% tout service. He's a very rich man. So, I think he's being, it's not a joke to him at all. So, he just thought that, I don't know, he thought that was a good reason to submit the play. It doesn't make sense. But here we are.
Here we are. All right.
That one, and then so Grooven just tweeted out his final 4 of that, the kid submitting plays tweet we just discussed, the call me doctor tweet we discussed, the Durant tweet we discussed, and then the next tweet we're getting to, which is Term PGF 2016, which again is like, you would like literally this one you would think was fake if you didn't know it was real. Like this is something I would have taken 5 minutes to Photoshop if it didn't actually happen. So I didn't need to do that. Like, and then PGF, like not understanding the difference between Hispanic and all the, so, but again, like everybody, I don't know what PGF was thinking tweeting that at Donald Trump, honestly, but who knows what that guy's thinking a lot of the time. But I mean, it seems like Trump is being, he's just excited to have this Latino vote. So, I mean, and he's still doing great. I guess he's still got at least part of the Latino vote. So maybe that was a turning point for him.
Oh man, I don't know how we forgot about the PGF. How it took so long to bring up PGF in this podcast, but
and then unfortunately, my entry that is in commemorating that tweet is not doing very well. But I'm just really not doing it justice. So I'll try to start picking it higher than a 40% clip. But we'll see how that goes.
You got to focus a little better.
I really need to focus.
Come on, Kubo.
And then we got 2 more on the list here. One is the big lead Jason McIntyre tweet about the Saints 2-point conversion and how Vegas knows. So I guess this was the week that Breeze was hurt, Breeze ended up not playing. It was unclear early in the week if Breeze was going to play, and then like on Friday it was announced he was out. I guess this must have been week 3, and so but the Super Contest lines come out on Wednesday night, so the Super Contest line they just had to guess. They don't know was 4.5, and that actual line ended up being 9, around there, between 7.5 and 9.5. All Friday, Saturday, Sunday after it was actually released. So Vegas didn't, like the line wasn't, Vegas doesn't ever make sense, but the line wasn't 4.5, except in the contest that they made an imaginary line on. So that was, I don't know what goes through his head a lot of the time, but that, I mean, that's just a great example of how just completely nonsensical Vegas knows is. It's like RJ using 2.5 as the line for that soccer game, where the line was closer to 1.5. Like, yeah, if you just pick the spread that's closest to the number the game lands on, then Vegas is going to be really smart. But you're just like picking the most convenient spread possible, so it doesn't really make any sense. But I mean, I think that tweet is just funnier because everybody just dislikes him so much because he's just so awful. That it just, I mean, and obviously anytime he talks about gambling, he has no idea what's going on. So that it really all came together with that one.
Yeah, that's where the C's merge together and create the perfect waves there. So, all right. So do we have anything else tweet wise, or do you want to go into some of the listener questions here?
I don't know if I want to go into listener questions at all, but the one other tweet is the project. I don't know. I don't have a great sense of how popular this one's going to be, but I think, especially given everything else going on, the Project Roto tweet about how his tweet is at the real stand in Midi's world, and he just says, "Welcome to planet Earth. Everyone is shilling." It's like the guy can't even imagine a world where like literally a world where people are just like trying to logically talk about something rather than shilling for something, because that just doesn't exist to him. So I mean, that just really we're gonna have to bring the dog out at some point, I guess. There are a lot of requests for Walker. I just thought that summed up so many stuff in that world. Not everybody, but so many of those guys are getting money from affiliates or DraftKings or FanDuel one way or another. That's just, you know, how many affiliate links have you seen? That's just how it is.
Sure.
So that's definitely a solid one. We'll see how it fares.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll start with some of the more betting / DFS related ones, the kind of ones that we've been discussing here on the pod, and then kind of the more nonsensical ones that people had. So the one that you had me, well, I had read the article briefly, but then when you DM'd it to me earlier today, I read it a little bit more, and it was relating to the NYT article about Pinnacle, and it was mentioning on the intricacies of how Pinnacle's established itself and kind of skirted around some of the legal parts of American gambling and how it's illegal, obviously. But I wanted to know your thoughts on that article. I think the specific question was from Port Art 12, and he said, was the article bad? I don't know if he meant bad for you or just bad in general, but
no, I interpreted that as just bad in general. Okay. I didn't think it was like a poorly written article, or like, it's just they looked at what was going on, and they were, I don't really want to go into all of Pinnacle's business model, but they were put on what they saw, which is like, that's fine. But I thought the tone of the article is weird because, like, in that whole article, like, obviously there's the whole issue of like gambling addiction and stuff, but like, it's not like the mafia. Like, nobody's getting their legs broken. Nobody's like getting hurt. Nothing, like, the law is being broken, okay, but like sometimes I drive over the speed limit too, and like nobody cares. And I feel like with a lot of this stuff, it's like people I feel like the authors of that article expected people to read it and be horrified. But I mean, obviously I'm not horrified, but I just don't think at this point in like 2015 it comes across that way as like, oh, these terrible things are going on. It's really clear that the government just like doesn't care that much, and like there are things to spend their time on, honestly. So I thought the article was interesting in that sense, in that I feel like it wasn't poorly written or investigated or anything, but I think their angle, I don't know what their angle is. Like, are they trying to shed light on this horrible thing, or are they trying to like make the government ashamed of what a bad job they're doing, or I don't know which of those it is, but I don't think on any front they're like really getting there.
Okay.
So that was just my takeaway from that. I don't think it was a bad article. I just mostly thought it was weird, I guess, to answer the question.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I was I don't want to say victim. My PPH site with one of the locals I use got
Well, they
shut down.
probably all kicked you out in October.
That 365 Action was the site that my PPH used, and luckily I personally don't have any problems getting paid. And actually the guy that I'm using used for the book, it said if I wanted to, for some of the futures that I bet ahead, months ago, that he would honor them on his own. I don't know how true that is, but it was reassuring to hear he'll honor the one bet that I give a shit about was the Dallas Stars 80-1 that I got Stanley Cup back in July, which I just tailed from someone. But I was like, all right, I'll take them up on this. I think I only had $70, $80 left in that account, but so I'll either owe them $70 or $80 or win $2,000. Yeah. I'll take my chance with that. With these sites getting shut down, I'm not too worried about it. There's always going to be somewhere else for us to go. I don't know how many books do you actually have at your fingertips when you're betting on a daily basis?
It's probably between 10 and 15, I would say. And there are some that are, have the limits vary, and how much I actually use them varies a lot. But there's still a lot out there. And there are also I think it's silly to brag about how you've gotten kicked out of books. Like Johnny Detroit likes to talk about how he's gotten kicked out of 7 books for scalping, which is that. And there's some things where getting kicked out of books is bad. You can't make any money off of them anymore. You actively avoid trying to get kicked out of books. So to brag about it, it's just one of those things touts to. But I still have 10 to 15, and there are a bunch of places that I can't bet. So there's still no shortage of offshore sports books.
Okay, and you're never are you ever worried or apprehensive about things getting shut down for you, or?
In what way?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know how with random sites. I don't know if sites just you'll occasionally hear about a site. I guess I don't know if maybe it doesn't have as much as it used to, but with the site maybe just getting shut down. But maybe you're probably using more reputable books than.
And you never know what can what. It's all so anything can happen, but you just have to know that going in, I think.
Okay. All right, so let's go on with more of the questions here. We have Never Trained who's asking your favorite DFS promo code.
I think the Hitler one would probably be pretty tough to beat. I thought that was hilarious. That also happened on when I was sitting at a bar on a Friday night or something, but that you could actually use Hitler, and I think it might have been you could use Hitler on both sites or something like that. Not really. Obviously, they have an incredible number of different promo codes, but the fact that actually works is pretty incredible.
Have you tried to type in any of your own just out of curiosity?
I actually never. I should. I actually never went through and gave it a shot.
Type in Fezzik and get some BLAP discount or something.
It seems like he's having a tough start to football season too. But RJ's here to tell us how it's all okay, so it's fine.
All right, Anonymous Gambler asked if you were Brett Favre 444.
I'm not.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one.
Okay. Do you know who is?
LearnDoc.
That's what people have been saying.
So I'm pretty sure they're the same person.
Okay, that's what I've heard, but I don't know if you're being if you're on the street there or if you're speaking the truth there. But that's what I've heard.
Decide.
Let the people decide. All right, we have 2 questions from SB John 12. Your favorite your favorite animal, and how many Focus shirts did you buy?
Well,
are you looking for the shirts right now? Are they in the wall?
I'm looking for the animal.
You're looking.
I will say that as having a dog, I find myself, even when I'm just walking around and I see a squirrel, even if I'm just like walking by myself, I get very excited about the squirrel when like it would be weird. It's weird for me to get excited about squirrels. But the dog gets so excited that I find myself having that like natural reaction to it now. And I bought 2 Focus shirts. So, and as I tweeted, I ordered them on, I don't know, Saturday morning, I guess. Yeah, it must have been Saturday morning. And they got here on a Monday afternoon, and by Monday night I was wearing the Focus shirt that actually fits me. So it seems like they're also like sold out. So I feel like I should have bought more, and then like, you know, create a resale market for Focus shirts. If anybody needs a size large Focus shirt, I do have an extra one. So let me know.
Did you buy 2 different sizes then, or did they not focus on like the?
No, I bought an extra large and a large. I just like buy 2 T-shirts when I buy them. So
okay.
You know, when I'm not fat like this, I can wear the large.
Like an aspiration, like you put it on your wall and say you have to focus a little more on your diet and your exercising and all that.
I actually should just like hang the other Focus shirt up somewhere. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
or maybe just like tailor it for Walker.
Who was the one who pointed that out to? Was that Bellevue Dog? Was that, I'm trying to remember who brought that.
The Photoshop of it.
Yeah, was that Bellevue Dog?
Was it? I archived it.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. Anyways.
Yeah, it was him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you're right.
Okay.
That was incredible. So
no,
that would definitely not be lost in the mix.
So so non-betting here we have Grooven was asking how bad does Mexican food in DC/Northern Virginia suck that you seem to eat regularly at Chipotle?
That's actually a good question. I think Chipotle is okay. I don't know. There's a lot of good food around where we live, but I don't know. And I've gone to some of the Mexican places around here, and we're getting a request for the shirt and the dog now. I just haven't found any good places. I mean, you know, Chipotle is easy enough. But I like Mexican food. So if anybody knows of some good Mexican food in DC, let me know, and we can get lunch someday, because I'm not aware of it.
Did you hit up any in Chicago? Because there's, at least in my neighborhood, there's plenty. Although it helps to be in a Hispanic neighborhood, though. So. Yeah,
I'm sure there's. I guess that's kind of a random place for Mexican food, but I don't think we had some good Italian food, I think, but some good Wrigley food.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. The next question. This is a bunch of Dale randomness here.
We probably should have cut out even more of these.
Now that you've outed him, now that you've doxed him, I guess, the top 3 yearners on Twitter, and I guess you can maybe go into Kooky Tim's question here too about who tries the hardest to fit in with Seville, and you could answer that however you need to.
I mean, I think that Anonymous Gambler is probably the answer to both of those questions. He's yearning pretty hard. So
I was worried that I was going to be a yearner just based on how much I seem to be talking to you guys, but I'm glad that
I don't think I would say that.
Okay.
You know, at least you have your podcast. You have your own thing. And I mean, I don't know. I think one of the funniest things was that, you know, the whole yearner thing started with RJ telling one of the Seville guys, I should remember, but I don't, that they were yearning to be significant, and, you know, because they didn't have any followers or they were a hater or whatever. But like RJ is like the ultimate uriner. RJ is like literally just constantly trying to come. Not that he's trying to be in Seville, but he's just constantly trying to come up with stuff that, made up Vegas lines for the theoretical games 2 months from now that people will retweet. Like that's his whole life is just yearning. So RJ is definitely. RJ may be the ultimate yearner. And I guess one of our questions come up soon. Comes back to him as well.
Okay. All right.
And I guess the next question is also related about the easiest. Sorry, I'm asking questions for you.
No, go for it. No, go for it. No.
But I think the easiest way to get on my hate list, not that anybody cares, is just, it's the same thing with RJ and DFS. It's just like these people are so, when they have something to sell or they have an agenda, as RJ likes to say, whatever, people are just so fucking disingenuous. And whether it's like RJ saying that the value in buying picks is the fun you get of being on the same side of these great pros, or the DFS guys saying that DFS isn't gambling because put whatever nonsensical reason you can after that. It's just like you can't have a conversation with these people because they're not. It just doesn't. What they're saying doesn't make any sense, and they're not like trying to make sense. They're just trying to sell whatever it is they're trying to sell. So I guess it all kind of comes back to that.
Sure. All right. I think one of the last ones, at least one of the last approved Dale questions here, because I know.
Thank God. We had to cut out a lot of the Favre question.
He had like 30 questions, and he could. I'm gonna have him start writing the outline for these pods because he's.
He could almost just like host a podcast.
He could. He's been invited, but he doesn't want to out himself as Brett Favre 444. So
yeah, he's got a lot. There's a lot going on there.
But his last one was Seville related here with Thick Norm and Peasy, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. Who brings home the attractive Canadian girl at the bar eating Chick-fil-A and that hates guac?
I think if you want to take the first stab at this, I think you're probably just as qualified to answer as I am. Do you have a take on who would win that battle?
I don't know any of these guys personally.
I don't know any of them personally either. It seems like if Thick is fatter than both of us, that he's probably in trouble. So it probably comes down to the other two. I think that would be an interesting battle. I feel like they're, up there with the most hateful people in Seville, so they might. I don't know. That's a tough one. Good question, Bert.
Yeah, Bert. Bellevue Dog was asking if RJ has trouble sleeping at night.
I actually think he doesn't. I think he thinks that he's just doing a great service to everybody, and he's like convinced himself of this, I guess. But that, oh no, the feed died. Oh man, the feed really died.
Did it?
I don't know. Maybe it's back. People are just tweeting that it died. So, someone's gonna have to tell us if it came back.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's okay, but I haven't seen anything on our end that looks bad. But let me retweet it again just in case people don't see it, or maybe you're re-entering the pod shortly again. I don't know. I can still hear you fine. I don't know. Are you having any issues? I'm seeing live.
Somebody just told me that the pod died after RJ's the ultimate uriner.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's still recording, so we could at least give people the MP3 version of this, because I haven't seen it die yet, at least on my end. So.
Yeah, we're still finishing up, but we're like taking a break because something broke.
Did it break? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it says 404 not found. Wait, how does that make sense?
I mean, if it's still recording, we can just keep going and for the lines for the theoretical. Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. The feed really die in here? I don't know what.
Look in the bottom corner, yeah.
.404 error. It says it's still live.
Lines for the theoretical games 2 months from now that people will reach. No.
I mean, I can still see you, so I didn't even know that the. I didn't
Oh
even
no,
know.
we're in the same boat. It's working fine from my end, but everybody's saying it's not working at all.
Fuck. I must. It stopped at the hour 9 mark here. Let me hit stop and start again. See if that.